Hi, I'm Ian.
And I'm Jason.
And this is Ghosts and Bears, the only podcast where we bring you the actual ghost stories
With the actual history.
in the actual place. On this episode of Ghosts and Bears, we're off to Prince George, British Columbia, way up north, where Jason happens to be from, and we're going to be talking about the ghost in his house on Ghosts and Bears. Hello, and welcome to Ghosts and Bears. We're back.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing well.
I hope everyone out there is doing well too.
Yes, we're pretty excited because according to our province, most of the restrictions are coming off next couple of weeks.
Yeah, it sounds like mid-March.
Yeah.
Most of them, if not almost all of them, might be gone. So that's kind of cool.
That's exciting for us. I know in the States a lot of them are gone already.
Yeah.
Or Alberta.
Yes.
They're definitely new for us, so we're pretty excited about that. As promised, we are going to be talking about your ghost in the house.
That's right. The Haunting of Hart Highlands.
Yes, I know that's what you wanted to call it.
That's just what it is. The Haunting of Hart Highlands. Make it known.
It does sound good.
Yeah. And apparently the house is back up for sale again. So when we recorded this, it's hard to believe it was August of 2021.
Yep.
And that listing lapsed.
Because nobody bought it.
Yeah. And so it's back on the market again.
So for all of our patrons, we are going to put that link in our usual pictures. So you'll be able to go to the link for the listing of the house and see the inside of the house and the outside of the house and all those good things. So I hope you
poor old thing
will enjoy that. I know.
And you know what's weird? Yet again, no picture of
that weird corner.
Yeah, and my brother's room.
Yeah.
Still no picture.
Which you're going to be able to understand more about that once you get into the episode.
That's right.
Other than that, was there anything exciting that's happened to you this week? Did you...
Oh, just my work.
Yeah.
Seems a lot more, but that's okay.
And my mom came for a visit.
That's right. It was a good weekend.
We had a great weekend, and you helped a friend buy a car?
Yes, I did. So that was a lot of fun,
Yes.
and she loves it. And
moral of the story, don't let those car salesmen or the finance salesman talk you into anything you don't think you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're tricky little weasels.
Yeah, they can be.
I'm sure there's plenty of... good, kind, honest car salesman out there. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, most of the time, your services as a car broker guy are required to outsmart them? No,
just
call them on their guff.
Put them into clarity.
Ooh, that's a nice way to put it.
Make things a little more transparent.
There you go. In other words, cut the crap and tell me what I'm actually buying.
And they don't like that.
No, they do not.
And that's okay. It's neither here nor there. Our girlfriend is extremely excited with her new ride. So Congratulations to Abby.
Yay.
Yeah, enjoy your ride.
Yeah. Other than that, though, we've just been sort of moving along. I signed the papers for the Calgary book, as I mentioned before. So I'm already kind of working towards getting that more of a reality. Mm-hmm. And I also at some point have to record the Vancouver book for an audiobook. Yeah,
oh yes, I can do that in my spare time.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
Whenever that would be between the hours of 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. I think are your spare time hours.
Make it so.
I'll get it done. I just have to sit down and do it and figure out how to do it and make sure it's okay.
Oh, I can totally do it. I'll just start recording it tonight.
I'll
probably have it done by 5 a.m.
Oh, perfect. Great. I'll look forward to that. Then I don't have to worry about it anymore. So we are going to be talking about Prince George. And for those of you who don't know, and I'm assuming that's most of you, because to be honest with you, I didn't know a whole lot about Prince George history before going up there with Jason because that is where he was born.
And that's not Prince George, Virginia. So,
is there a Prince George, Virginia?
I think there is, but no, this is British Columbia.
So Prince George is the largest city in northern BC. There's about 75,000 people who live in the greater metropolitan area. It's often called the province's northern capital.
That's because it is the northern capital.
Or sometimes the spruce capital, because let's be honest, there's not a whole lot up there other than trees and lakes and a couple of nice rivers.
Yeah, foothills. Nice foothills.
No, it's great. It kind of is the last vestige of quote-unquote big city.
Yeah.
It's about as far north as you can go before now getting into the small towns. It was established in 1807 as the Northwest Company Fur Trading Post and named in honor of King George, because that's what you did in those days. You sucked up to the monarchy. The post was centered in the centuries-old homeland of the Lahadi-Tena First Nation, whose very name means people of the confluence of two rivers. And that's exactly what was there.
That's exactly right.
Which rivers was it again?
The Fraser River meets the Nechako River.
There you go. And that's what they were about.
There's Cottonwood Island Park almost right there where they converge.
There you go. So throughout the 19th century, the Fort George Trading Post remained unchanged, and Fort St. James, which is further north, reigned as the main trading post and capital of the New Caledonia area, as they called it. And even during the Caribou Gold Rush, Fort George was isolated. Although Quesnel, which also has its own ghost story, by the way, Mandy the Haunted Doll is in the Quesnel Museum, prospered as the Caribou Road was built to its doorstep, making it the main staging area for the miners going into the gold fields at Barkerville. Also super haunted, so good news for us.
You mean Fort St. James or Fort
yeah,
St. James, yes. So no, Fort St. James is
isn't it further north?
West.
Oh, okay.
Fort St. John is north.
Oh, got it. Okay, there's so many saints.
Fort St. John is north. Fort St. James
so
is
many
west.
Old guy names. I can't keep it all straight. They built the Collins Overland Telegraph Trail in 1865 to 1867, but it bypassed Fort George Trading Post, following the Blackwater Trail from Quesnel and continuing north towards Hazelton. In the late 1800s, many of the First Nations lived in a village built next to the HBC trading post due to the ease of preparing furs and trading directly without great distances to travel. However, things changed in 1903. The Grand Trunk Pacific Railway, later part of the Canadian National Railway, would pass near the trading post, and in 1906, agricultural settlement began around the HBC post, and then in 1909, development of two town sites began as two rival land speculation companies built the communities of South Fort George and Fort George, sometimes referred to as Central Fort George. South Fort George was built on the Fraser River, near to and just south of the Hudson's Bay Company trading post. And the other one, meanwhile, was trying to acquire land for its own town site, which delayed the construction of what would become Prince George for several years. And this is a big thing back then, land speculation.
Yeah.
You bought what was essentially, there's nothing there, betting that the town would spring up around it, and then you could sell your land for a big pack of money.
Good old PG.
Good old PG. So lots sold in 1912 for $400, rising to $500 to $1,000 by 1913. So you could definitely say it worked. The 10-paddle steamer Steamwheelers serviced the area, coming up on the Fraser River from Soda Creek, docking at both Fort St. George and the other Fort St. George town site as well. So they kind of brought service to both. Along the way, things just sort of kept running from there. They moved up in terms of population, in terms of people, and it just got bigger and bigger. And finally, once they made some peace with the First Nations band that was there, because, big surprise, they just took all their land and didn't ask. What? That never happens.
Yeah.
They decided that they would then build the town site, and that's what they did. They mapped it out. But it really, though there had been kind of colonialists there since the early 1800s, it didn't really take off until early 1900s. So that's kind of the history of St. George. As I said, it's
Fort George.
Oh, Fort George.
South Fort George and Fort George.
Oh, my Lord. I'm getting so confused.
You're getting confused about Fort St. James, Fort St. John, South Fort George, and Fort George.
And now it's Prince George.
And yes, now it's just straight up Prince George.
And Prince George, what are they known for economically? What, right now, would you say the city
Well, a lot of the business is there's the CN Railway, which is formerly BCR. Now it's leased to CN Railway. And then, of course, you got Canfor Mills. So Northwood Pulp Mill,
lumber,
and Canfor.
So lumber.
Three very large pulp mills that are there.
Yeah. So lumber keeps the place running.
Yes, and it's got a lot of recreation because there's something like 200 to 600 lakes in the vicinity.
Yeah, which are pretty spectacular. We went to one and it was stunning.
Yeah, you could go on a Saturday afternoon and find a lake and there will be no one there.
Nobody else there.
It's beautiful.
Very cool. The other thing about Prince George is it's kind of the hub for the north. And
Correct.
that means if you live in a small town up north and you need a big city experience, you're going to Prince George because there's literally nowhere else to go.
And that makes sense because when I grew up and lived there, even before I moved to Vancouver, where Highway 97 and Highway 16, which is known as the Highway of Tears, meet, that particular area was just golf course and spruce trees. Yeah. But now it's got all the major businesses and the casino, and you've seen it now. You got Toyota and all the other big car dealerships and several hotels and big box restaurants. It's
one thing you talked about, which we should explain a bit more. Tell me about the Highway of Tears.
That's Highway 16 that heads east-west. So Highway 16, a lot of these deaths were majority women. I think they're in the neighborhood of 80 plus registered. Yeah. And they basically go pretty solid from Prince George all the way to Prince Rupert. And as you head west, the further west you go, the worse it is. And it's just a hypothesis of how many
and it's a 450-mile corridor of highway.
Yeah, so
between Prince George and
kilometers.
Prince Rupert. That's huge.
Yes, and there's large areas in Highway 16 that have no cell phone signal.
Yeah.
And I showed Ian it when we were up there for our terrace episode. I showed him why people can just disappear. Never mind the fact that there's a good hour of no cell phone signal at all.
Yeah.
There's an extremely wide river called the Skeena River, and in a good portion of it towards Prince Rupert, it's tidal. So if you want to make a body disappear, there you go.
Oh, it's unbelievable. There's
and
just nothing. There's nothing up there. It's been going on since the 70s. The list of missing and dead women is incredible. Most of them end up there because they are hitchhiking.
Yes, they're hitchhiking, I believe,
and or
could be targeted.
Yeah,
they could be targeted,
and then they just go missing. It's heartbreaking, and it's something that is now finally starting to be addressed. But it's been going on since the 70s.
Yeah,
that's not right.
Well, that's when a lot of this was being reported, but
nothing got done about it.
Realistically, the list could be quite a bit bigger. And it's not just women that go missing. There are males that go missing too.
Just not very many.
Yeah. Now it's called the Highway of Tears because the majority of are women. But I know firsthand talking to some of my friends up north that males occasionally go missing as well.
So that starts in Prince George, ends in Prince Rupert. So say I'm in Vancouver and I want to drive to Prince George. How long does it take?
Oh, it's about 8 hours, eight and a half hours.
Right. Which in Canadian terms isn't that bad.
No. Highway 97 North is where you go. You pretty much head to Hope. Yep. So out of Vancouver, head to Hope, which is east. And then you head north. And there you go. You're in PG.
PG. And who welcomes you when you drive into PG?
My favorite is Mr. PG. And he's changed. So.
We found him when we went up there and he looked different. And so I Googled him. And it turned out he was built to promote Prince George back in the 60s, I think, in a big parade in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And they built him out of lumber.
Yes.
And they took him on down there, propped him up for the parade, and then they put him at the entrance to the city. And now he's made out of fiberglass, I think. They actually went full pro. And
he's now synthetic.
But he's still
artificial. Yeah, he's Mr. PG. He has this funny little hat, and he's looks like wood. And has his kind of welcoming wave, and that's a very PG thing. And
so that was our time in Prince George. We had a really good time. It was nice to be up there again. We had been up there before, which we're going to talk about in the story time. And both times we were lucky enough to go into the house we're talking about, which was located in the Hart Highlands, which is why you said,
yeah,
you want to call it the haunting of Hart Highlands.
The haunting of Hart Highlands. It sounds good.
And we had a really interesting night that night. There was like all kinds of weird things happening that night. The thunderstorm. And,
the thunderstorm the minute that we left started brewing.
Yeah, and the bears. And it was...
Yeah, the bear, that was odd. Thinking about it, August... In the evening when we were recording, what was about 7 or 8.
Yeah, about 7 or 8.
That's unusual for a bear to just be running
still bright
about.
out.
I mean, to me, it makes... I've seen bears in Hart Highlands, in the winter.
Yeah.
But not in August.
No. No. And not when it's still bright out.
Yeah. And
it was
a big
really
one.
weird, yeah.
It was unusual, to say the least.
So we will let you get into the story time, and we will be back after that. And I hope you enjoy story time. And and now you get to hear Jason's experience of the ghost in my house.
Bye for now.
So Jay and I are sitting in our car, the Ghost and Bears Mobile, and we have spent most of the day going around and checking things out. And now one of the things we did today was Jason's childhood home is actually up for sale, which is weird. Mm-hmm. And we actually went with the realtor who is a good family friend of yours and who actually sold the house for you when you sold it. And we went through the house. Mm-hmm. A little bit of background. This is the long-awaited, as I'm sure has all been stated in the opening part of the show, the long-awaited episode where we talk about Jason's house. Because one of the things that Jason and I first had in common was we both lived in a haunted house. He just had the unfortunate experience of living it when he was growing up. Mm-hmm. Would that be fair? So tell us about the house and tell us about why it was just so... messed up.
Okay, well, there's a lot that goes on in this house.
What's the first thing you noticed when you were a kid?
There's a whole bunch that was happening. It kind of all happened, it's just, I don't know where to begin. The house has bad energy. I can't tell if it's a presence or what. Ian's initial thought was when he first encountered it 4 years ago he thought it was what he thought was an elemental, but I beg to differ. I've seen the shadow. It touched me once and I was sick for about a month. I know anytime my parents hung around in the rec room, their energy changed. They got quite cross with one another, is a polite way of putting it. It lingers downstairs. My brother was drawn to suicide.
How old was your brother when he died?
It was his 21st birthday.
Right. And he had the room downstairs, didn't he, as his bedroom?
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It was sad. It was a sad situation, and...
How old were you when that happened?
Oh, I was 14. Yeah. Anyways... my dad had it's now suited, but and that's a whole different subject altogether. Anyways, at the time in the basement, my dad had a bunch of fish die. It just happened all at once. You can claim that maybe the water's pH levels were out. It wasn't that. He babied these things. Couple that with the negative energy. I mean, I just talked to the realtor today saying, that's the first time I've ever walked up those stairs, one stair at a time. Any time we had a storm. Wow, there's actually a bear.
There is a bear running across the road
yard.
into the front yard of your old house. That's crazy.
I've never seen that before. Anyways, that is really weird. Ghosts and bears. Anyways, it's all at the house now. So anyways, where was I?
So the best thing to do, I think, is tell the story of what you experienced as a kid. And then I think we'll end with what we learned when we came back 4 years ago. And even talking to this lady. So we'll end with that. We'll end with that.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Or today. Okay, so I'll just go back to the beginning. The house just has really negative energy, and it's all concentrated in the basement. There's a particular room underneath the stairs that it seemed to hang out, as well as the back hallway. That's where it's most influential. The old cold room, the hallway, and this room underneath the stairs. It's just not pleasant. It's very unpleasant. There's never been a time where I ever hung out in the old rec room and really felt at ease. There was this weird. It was I don't know. It was an archway. It was not a typical design for a doorway from the hallway into it was an arch. Very unusual design for the house, because the house is just your standard rectangle box, 3 bedrooms up, 1 down sort of thing, 2 baths. It just was not pleasant. Nothing ever felt settled downstairs. Anytime I did laundry, I just was in and out of there during the day. I would really hate going into there at night. I never felt comfortable at night. My bedroom is on the upstairs. It was on the upstairs in the back corner. I would hear things. For example, a friend of mine, an old close friend, stayed for a long time, lived with us, as his parents were away. And I remember us going to sleep. We were fast asleep, and about 2:33 a.m. we heard all this banging from the old room downstairs.
And that used to be your brother's room.
Yeah, and we just woke up. We just woke up and stared at one another, and that was it. We never said a thing. And you know what? Chris and I never talked about that to this day. We've never mentioned that. And it's one of the reasons why I was kind of a spoiled kid. I had a really beautiful stereo. I know exactly what I had. It was a Marantz 1070 amplifier integrated, Sony CDP 470, CDP 470 or 490 single play CD player. But I would leave it running on classical music all night. My dad gave me some Infinity reference speakers, and I would leave it running on repeat all night so that I could actually get rest. I could never, ever, ever, fall asleep without music.
Didn't you tell me about a time when your room got really, really dark and you knew something was going on?
Yeah. That was later on after David was gone. I remember looking out the back window, and then I kind of noticed from my closet a presence emanating. Is the only way to really truly describe this. And I remember the room becoming black. It enveloped the room holistically, and I felt myself completely blinded by it. I have never experienced it upstairs. I did always hear it in the hallway upstairs. Whenever I walked down the hallway, I would hear it downstairs through the heat register. There's a return heat register in the hallway. It's your standard design, natural gas. But anytime I walked by that heat register, I would hear noises that are not easily comprehensible, not easily describable. There are very few words to describe that haunting noise. And it was I don't know. The banging, the noises, they just had a metallic sound to them. There was just, they would echo. That would haunt me. So like I said, if I had my business in that basement or I was listening to my stereo downstairs, whenever I shut that rec room door, which is now a suite door, I literally ran up the stairs 2 stairs at a time. I would not feel comfortable unless I was at the top stair.
Now, one thing I just realized when you were telling this story, and I don't know why I didn't catch it the first time, I didn't know a lot about shadow people until a few years ago. And well, you said to me 2 things. You said, number 1, it was a shadow and you saw it. Mm-hmm. And number 2, at one point it touched you and you got really sick. Now, I've heard stories about shadow people touching people, pressing against people, having physical contact, and they have real big issues like depression and anxiety and all the rest of it for quite a while after this encounter. So I'm wondering if it was a shadow person, which is not a ghost per se, like it was never human, but they seem to be way more popular than I ever knew. So I'm going to kind of back off and retract that whole elemental thing right now, like literally because of this trip. And I'm going to say, I think it was some sort of shadow person. And I don't know why it was attached to this house, but it certainly seems to be. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, 100%. I knew something had happened in this house a long time ago before we bought it. I remember that the basement door in the carport was kicked in. We never replaced it. In fact, when I sold the house, I didn't even replace it. It was just, I don't know what happened. All I knew was through hearsay that the RCMP were involved with a serious domestic incident. Even the realtor today suggested she was wondering if there was a murder in this house. And that's possible. That, it goes on to, the suicide, the fish dying. I did never mention yet. My dad had a beautiful Great Pyrenees. It went into that area of the house and came upstairs and died in his arms. Mm-hmm. Just died in his arms. Like, this house is, whatever is dwelling in that hallway is pure evil. Now, fast forward to about 4 years ago. This is, I've sold the house. I actually sold it, I think it was 2006. You look at the records. The guy suited it and then resold it about 8 months later. Now, here's the interesting thing. We arrived 4 years ago, 2017 here. Mm-hmm. And I bang on the door and introduce myself, and the lady was like, basically, who the heck are you? And I start explaining some certain things. I said, I'm raised in this house. I know everything about it. I said there's an awful lot of unique energy downstairs.
That got her attention.
Yes, and she let us in right away, and she opened up like a floodgate. She basically said, that explains a lot. She's been renting it for, I think at that point, about 2 years. Yeah. Ironically enough, this lady upstairs right now has been renting 2 years. Mm-hmm. And here's the interesting facts. The other one, her name was Helga. I don't know who the current tenant is. Anyways, Helga said no one stayed in that basement suite for any length of time. The turnover was bang, 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 repeatedly. No one stayed in that. Here's the other interesting thing. The current owner who is selling it right now, I think he now has a more permanent place. But anyways, she basically conveyed that he had a place out, I believe it's probably Summit Lake or Tabor Lake, it doesn't really matter, but it was out of town. So anytime there was an extreme snowstorm, he would actually use the basement suite. That's now, right. Here's the interesting thing. He would never, ever, ever use David's room. It was untouched. In fact, Ian, did you notice that today? It looked like nothing had touched that room in the last 4 years.
He had put a bed in the living room of the suite, which is as close to the front door as you can get and as far away from the weird energy as you can get.
100%.
So he must have picked something up.
Yeah, and exactly. He did. And he apparently hasn't done anything to the house, which I confirmed today. I think that has the realtor a little concerned because the asking price is way over what I sold it for 15 years ago. Anyways,
when we talked to the lady today,
she said he hasn't rented that suite out at all in the last 2 years that she has lived here.
Yeah.
And he's taken away the archway, which is interesting, and put in a door, and that allows him to. Now, this living room that Ian was talking about with his bed in it, you can picture the house as a 2-story bungalow. Now, he split it, as I would have, horizontally. So there's the upstairs suite, and now there's the downstairs suite. Anyways, when his bed was in there, that was the former rec room. That was the room I was talking to you about. This. It had a small library, it had my stereo, and it also had my pool table. Anyways, that's all gone. Fast forward, and here it is now, the living room, because of course it's now the only kind of living space in that suite. And it makes sense because that rec room is underneath the living room of the upstairs. It dawned on Ian in a way that it's peculiar that he left the bed in that room. It's gone now because now he rents it to the upstairs tenant for an additional fee. So that's why the archway's gone, because now there's a door.
Did you notice where her bed is?
No.
Right by the front door, as far away from the rest of the suite as you can get.
I didn't even notice.
Yeah. The girl.
I noticed that the couch is on the opposite side of the room, but I didn't notice the bed. Mostly because we got kind of interrupted at the showing, and there was a bit of a kerfuffle, and we were there, in theory, 30 minutes early. So we had some words in the beginning, and so that's why I didn't notice the bed.
But when I explained to her about what you had experienced in the house and our experience the last time we were in the house, she also said, oh, that makes some things make sense.
Oh, yeah. When we were apologetic, saying, we weren't there early, per se. We were there on time because our confirmed appointment was 1. So, I basically was apologetic and said, I used to live here. I'm born and raised in this house. So I said there's a lot of unique stuff that happens downstairs. And, she started opening up. Rather than just saying, oh, it's 1:30, it's 1:30, it's 1:30. She suddenly started realizing that there's some merit to some of the stuff we're pointing out, and that, i.e., this former living room to the suite / now it's a bonus room for the people who rent upstairs, because he couldn't rent this suite out downstairs. Now, I wanted to point out to Ian, and I don't know if he did notice this, but my brother's old room is basically exactly the same as it was 4 years ago.
Yeah, I did notice.
Even the bedding.
Yeah.
It was never touched.
No.
4 years ago, when we went in there with Helga.
Yeah.
I took a mental note. The bedding looked exactly the same. Nothing changed in that room.
I was going to talk a little bit about, fast forward to 2017. So we go to the house. I've never been in the house. Jason's told me the stories, of course. We go in the house. She's very excited that we're there because she finally has someone who will believe her. And then we go downstairs. She lets us in the suite.
She did let us in the suite.
And I immediately felt that kind of darkness down there. And then Jason says, hey, that cupboard there, that's where it used to hang out, the one under the stairs. So it's just a regular cupboard. There's no lock, there's no latch. It's got little magnets that hold the door closed.
That's right.
I went over, put my hand on the cupboard, and pulled, and you tried.
It
wouldn't open. Whatever was there was very angry. See, I think here's the difference. We went to this place this time in the afternoon, early afternoon.
Correct, and it was sunny.
And I don't think it has as much, power during the daytime, or it becomes more active at night. I don't know. But so when we were there today, I opened that same cupboard, and this time it opened easily, and I felt dizzy, but I still felt like something was wrong with it, but it wasn't that same feeling. Do you know what I mean? And then the lady upstairs in 2017 decided she was going to take this thing on. Do you remember that? Remember what she did?
Yeah, I was not very impressed. She started burning white candles in my room upstairs, my former room. And I said, that's a mistake. That is a mistake.
Because you're going to draw it. Yeah, you're going to draw it.
It's not upstairs.
Yeah.
Now, back to her. Helga, this is interesting. When she moved into this place, probably 2015, because I'm just hypothesizing at this point, because at that point she said she was here about 2 years.
Yeah,
Anyways,
yeah.
The interesting thing about her son is he didn't take my room.
Which
my
is the
room.
bigger room.
My room was the bigger room at the back,
Yeah.
and he took my sister's room at the front.
Yeah.
So the layout of the house at the front is like the master bedroom to the left, my sister's small room in the center, and then the gargantuan living room on the right. It's your basic standard 3-bedroom upstairs, right? And then my bedroom, of course, was between, like at the back corner, and you have like your typical full-size bath between the master and my bedroom, right? But my bedroom was above where a lot of the evening activities occurred.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just, that's hence going back to the CD player on repeat all friggin' night long.
Yeah.
It's the only way I could sleep.
Yeah. No, I get that. And the other thing we did, and I'll never forget this, was you basically told whatever it was off when we were there.
Yes,
Remember
I
that?
did. Yes, I did. I said, I basically told it to take a hike in so many words. I mean, I was being a little bit more blunt with my language, but I was talking to it when I was standing in my old former bedroom. Ian was with Helga in the living room talking, and I said, just leave these people alone. Your beef is not with them. I don't know who or what, or just go away. You don't need to be here bothering these people. And that's when she started lighting white candles in my room, and I basically, I think I politely said, that's probably a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no reason for this.
Yeah.
It never, other than that one experience of it being in my room, I do not know what drew it upstairs or what. It never really stayed upstairs. It was always downstairs. But after we left, she started messaging us on Facebook saying, I think it's upstairs.
And I think things are worse.
Yeah,
and I think she moved out pretty quickly.
She did.
afterwards.
Yes, that would make sense because this lady's been in
Yeah.
here for two years now. So, maybe I've.
And she said she's never felt comfortable in the house ever.
No, she actually, she did say that.
She said that
She
today.
said,
And now she said the energy in the house makes so much more things clear to her.
especially when it's marketed by the realtor that it's a hot commodity to rent both suites out, the upstairs and downstairs. Now, it says in the listing that she wants to stay. No, she doesn't.
No, she's already moving.
She's moving at the end of the month.
Yeah.
She wants out of this place.
Now, the other part of the story that we didn't mention was you had your little sort of showdown with this thing. And then we went to the hotel for the night, and we had the worst night. Do you remember?
Yeah.
It was like something was in the room with us.
Yes.
All night. It was tormenting us. It wouldn't let us sleep.
Yeah.
And it was like something was always in the corner of the room. I remember that really clearly. That was awful.
Yeah, it was a very unpleasant night. It is what it is. This house, I don't know what it is with it, but my realtor did say she did feel something today, and she's not
a woo type.
No, she
at
doesn't
all.
believe in this
No.
very much, but she did open up and say, after we locked the keys back up in the lockbox, she said the only other time I felt that way was she was listing a house in Connaught Hill. This is quite a while back. She went in to the house, and the upstairs was fine, but she went into the downstairs and just felt sick to her stomach. And she said to me today that her face was as white as a ghost. Even the people she was showing the house to were asking what's wrong with her. And she said, I don't know. I don't know. But she never let on the fact that walking into that basement, she knew that something was seriously awry with that house. Yeah. And it makes sense. It's similar to this house. It's always been in the basement. I see a brand new door in the carport, so they finally replaced that. Other than that, everything feels pretty much the same. Like I said to everyone today, like Helen's a realtor, and I told Ian, of course, that, when we were having coffee, discussing whether we were going to buy it or not. Basically, it was no, we're not buying this house. It's the person upstairs didn't have kind things to say about it. She said that there's a lot of mouse dung throughout the house now.
And they're running around the walls.
Yeah, and so whatever has been allowed to stew in this house is really running rampant.
It's taking over.
Yeah, and she said there's now spiders and this
coming in all the time.
And I'm just like, wow, what the heck happened to the home?
Yeah.
It's...
Maybe that energy finally got a foothold because no one owned it in a owning, loving kind of way. It's been filled with renters who come and go and don't really have an investment. And maybe whatever that thing is in the basement thought, oh, right, now it's my time to, claim it and make it my own. And it's making its own.
Really quite freakish that we just literally saw a black bear run into the yard.
I can't believe we saw that. That is craziness. Well, he didn't come back out.
I lived in this house for 26 years. I have never seen a black bear enter the yard.
He was a big one, too.
Yeah.
He was a big one.
They seem to be out. I mean, we just noticed a black bear up the road.
Yeah.
So
they're out.
I don't get it. It's a little weird in August that they're out like this. I don't, I'm not a black bear expert. I'm not, I don't profess to be. But to see a black bear running into the yard, it's kind of fitting that a black bear
coincidence
has decided to do this when we're decided to discuss this right outside the house.
So this really, we talked a bit about why I got into ghost stories, and we've talked a little bit about why Jason got into ghost stories, but I think this story really shows what an impact this had on you as a human being, as a kid, as an adult. It just made it all very real. It's not something you laugh at. It's something that is just out there, and it's just part of life. You, like I said at the beginning, you had the misfortune to be living here during your childhood, which I think would really suck.
Well, no, it taught me to be aware. But that, like I said, that brings me back to when I discussed on the episode what I was seeking. And when I went to Hart Highlands Elementary, I got that book and the brown lady and, there were a bunch of other photos. Rectory, there were a bunch of other photos that really stuck out in that book. I keep referring to that one because that one was very much one that I just kept staring at the photograph. You can Google it. You'll see what I mean.
The Borley Rectory lady, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't.
That is
I can't. If I Google it, I would say yes. That's definitely the photo.
Yeah.
But I can see it. I can see it in my head. I can see it. The stairs being clearly done out, and you can see the flash from the camera on the stairs that are reflecting back. But you see an apparition coming down the stairs that you can't fake. That was not really something you could get away with faking in the days of film, and I have shot photography for a long time. I know a lot of the tricks that you can pull off, double exposures, and that definitely was not something that I could say is a double exposure.
And speaking about that picture, what was it exactly that you saw? What did that shadow look like when you saw it? Set that up for us.
I was doing the laundry in the basement and just I was switching over from the washer to the dryer, and I kind of noticed it moving lightning fast out of the hallway and kind of brushing up against me. And I felt sick. I felt angry. And I felt cold and sick. And it just...
What kind of sick? Nauseous sick or drained?
Yeah, drained, headachy.
Okay,
and,
like a flu sick.
Yes. Yeah, and I was quite cranky for that month.
Wow.
And I certainly didn't want to step downstairs. No. That was probably, honestly, the time when I started running up the stairs. 2 at a time. And
you mentioned this to your sister. She was at our house a few years ago for Christmas.
Exactly.
Had a little too much to drink.
Yeah, she was wasted.
And you brought the house up and the darkness in the house, and she's like, that's garbage. I don't believe that. And what did you ask her?
Oh, yeah, I was pretty clear. I said, okay, well, let's test you. How many times did you step in that section of the house?
In the 20 years you lived there?
Yeah, 20 years that you lived in this bloody place. When did you go into that part of the house? Oh, less times than I can count on one hand. There you go.
Yeah.
And she doesn't believe. She was blunt. She she knew that Ian just published a book, and she's like, I don't believe in that stuff.
Well, that's fine. I don't need anyone to believe anything, to be honest with you.
No, I mean, there are stories, there are experiences. Like I said before, who are we to say that this stuff exists or doesn't exist? Yeah. Is it physics? Is it overlapping of time? Because they're starting to think past, present, future exists. I don't know. But whatever's in this house is not. It's I just told Ian when I was trying to describe it was pure evil. Now the reason why I was saying it was important there was sunlight earlier is we just had an epic thunderstorm today. I guess it's like the perfect storm at this house. We have a perfect thunderstorm. We have a black bear running into the yard that never ever runs because it's in a suburban area.
Yeah.
We don't have black bears here. Only a handful once in a while, but not like that. That's
But
weird. We literally just parked. We just parked and it runs across the street.
Yeah.
What the heck is all that about? So weird. Anyways, so my point was bringing it back to the sunlight, and it doesn't seem to have a lot of negative energy. I can actually handle being in the basement. It's now the kitchen. It was renovated back into a second kitchen, but I wanted out of there because a storm was brewing. And I know we have these epic lightning storms in Prince George, like today, it was always quite cranky downstairs. Like it almost woke it up.
Well, and that makes sense because if it's pulling energy from its environment, a lightning storm would be absolutely ideal. Huge amounts of power being discharged into the atmosphere. This thing's going to suck onto that.
I just couldn't stand being downstairs. No. I couldn't. This is how bad it would be in a lightning storm. I had to either be in the living room or on the back deck or outside the front door. I couldn't be in the house, like the kitchen or my room. Yeah. None of that when a lightning storm was happening.
It's almost like it was glowing with power at that point.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah. It's...
So I'm really glad we got to come. I'm glad we got to see the house. In some ways, there was some closure for you there, I think.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's because the pricing's right out. Like it's not what there's. I said there's been nothing done since my dad and I. Like we did the yard work, like the septic tank field in 1985. Like he hasn't done anything. Yeah, there's been nothing.
So and you got some closure, which is really good. Do you think now you'll be able to put this sort of like I would say trauma of this experience with the shadow person? Can you put that behind you now? Like move on, or let go, learn, but let go?
I think a little bit. I mean, obviously this is going to be a big part of my life. I mean, if I live to be 100, over a quarter of this time of my life on this planet was in this house.
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't know. Yeah. That's not something, it's like a magnet too. I don't know. Maybe some of you listeners will be able to appreciate that. I don't know what draws me to this house. It's maybe the mystery. Maybe it's the fact that I've never been able to solve it.
And, but it's funny you say
explain
that.
It.
Because there are people who go house hunting and they find a house and they're like, oh, this is the house. I have to have this house. This is the house I need to live in. And then they get in there and it's crazy haunted. And it's like, so what drew them in? What told their brain that this was a good place to be when it was just some spook trying to leech energy off of them or something? Do you know what I mean? Like, I wonder if that's part of the fascination. Like, it's kind of, it wants you in there.
I guess, and another thing is, I suppose I want to tell whoever's occupying the house the truth about it, right?
Right, and that's a bit of a thing you want to do.
And it's interesting because the moment we started explaining these things to Helga, which was a non-believer, suddenly she's like, that explains why no one has stuck around downstairs. Yeah. And then this current tenant, I don't know her name. No. And she didn't, open up that much. But when we started explaining these things, when we were busy having this battle in the entryway of whether we were supposed to be there at 1 or 1:30, it didn't matter. I mean, we were super apologetic. I mean, our realtor was amazing.
Well, she was very nice.
We smoothed it over. But once we started explaining, once I started explaining, I used to live here. I'm born and raised here. I know everything there is to know about this house. And I started explaining all the weird happenings that happen in this house. She started immediately switching into a mode where it was a little bit more cooperative,
nodding,
understanding, and then all of a sudden she was like, "Oh wow, that starts explaining why some of the crap that happens here.
And why no one will ever rent downstairs."
Exactly. I mean, even the current landlord has decided to take away that weird archway. Yeah. And I keep referring to that archway because there was something religious about it.
It would kind of stay behind it.
It did not belong in this house. It did not fit the style of this house.
Yeah.
And here is a bloody archway between the rec room and this hallway where all this energy was
But
happened.
it seemed to contain it a bit.
Well, yes, a bit.
It didn't like going in the front part of the house, is my point. It stayed in the back part of the house. Behind that.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But now that the archway's gone, I think that there's, that having that door there certainly helps keep it back there.
Right.
I mean, I could be blowing smoke out my.
Who knows? It's all speculation, right? It's all speculation.
But in this regard, I don't know. These poor people. I mean, the lady says she's now renting the second living room, which is supposed to be the suite, because that's the way he's decided to split it. Hence why the archway is now gone and there's now a door with a lock. Because that was a bit of a surprise when I saw that this time. And it's like, okay, well, I guess that makes sense, because if he can't rent this suite out at all, which is crystal clear, nothing has changed. Nothing has moved. It's just bizarre. I get quite animated. I get quite excited when I talk about this house, simply because there is a lot going on. But like I said, I don't know if I can. I think I did use the word closure today. There's a bit more of that. I mean,
that's good.
And I think my thing with this house is I definitely want people to know what's there for their safety.
Well, yeah, I get that, but I don't know how much you can do, really. I mean, we don't live here, right? So it's a thing. But anyway, thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
And it was good to talk about it again. And I seriously got that insight, literally sitting here, that it wasn't an elemental. I think it was a shadow person. And it's somehow attached to the house. I don't know where it came from. I don't know enough about shadow people to
it was interesting that Helen picked up on it, and
very interesting. Yeah.
Basically, she was saying that she, like I said, its power was a lot less today because we didn't come in the evening like before in 2017.
I'm glad.
And it was sunny, but that the storm, it is what it is. I certainly hope it rests in peace or goes away.
Yeah, me too. All right, thanks everybody, and
thank you very much.
I hope you enjoyed the story, and let us know what you thought about it.
Yes, please do.
Jay would love to have some feedback on it, so it'd be great to hear what you guys think.
I was hoping Ian would call us the haunting of Hard Highlands.
I like that. I think we're going with it. We're going with it. Yeah, I like that, and I think you're right. And so we're gonna get out of here now.
Yeah,
that's a request.
Let's go.
As well as a demand, and we hope you guys enjoyed it. Take care. All right, and we are back at it. So, what did you feel listening back to that?
Well, it's
because it was a while ago. We recorded this back
100%.
in August.
Yeah, it's 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of so I apologize because there was a lot of things to remember
and an energy that was in the air, even just outside the house, like it knew we were there.
Yes.
Yeah.
It seems to brew up all of its energy in those thunderstorms, and it's ironic that we show up to have a look at the house, and then as we're leaving, a thunderstorm literally starts brewing as we're heading out the door and heading
it was that way
to have coffee and discuss it. And then by the time we were having coffee, just 5 minutes away at the Tim Hortons,
it was like the sky was ripping in half.
It was furious.
Yeah,
it's so bizarre. It's a real bizarre house.
It is.
And it's interesting to see it now back up for sale. And like I just said at the very beginning, it's funny that ironically enough, it still doesn't have photos of David's room. So
and it must be hard for you because you spent a huge part of your childhood there.
Yeah.
And now it's just been kind of left. Like it just sort of...
Well, it's still over half of my life was spent in that house.
No, I know.
Right? It's weird. I moved on, I think. Would I ever own it again? I don't think so. There are other houses in PG I'd rather have.
Well, and that poor thing needs some love. Like
it does.
It's not in good shape. So.
Yeah, it does need some loving.
Yeah.
So that brings us to we're very grateful for your
support. I know we've had a lot of Patreon gifts go out in the last couple weeks, so people have been getting their
I hope you like them.
Coffee mugs and t-shirts and stickers, so we're pretty excited about that.
Feel free to send them to us. We'll put them on our Instagram.
Not the actual stickers, coffee mugs, or shirts. We don't want those.
No,
but we'd love to see a picture of you
guys
using the item. That would be amazing. Yeah, everybody.
He, she, them, her. I don't know all the pronouns anymore.
Well, good for you for trying.
Zer, them. I've heard even it. Seriously?
What?
Yes, I've heard it
that
is now a pronoun.
Dehumanizing.
I agree. I agree.
I identify as a stick.
I see.
I am it.
I am it.
So yeah, we're going to do our thank yous. So what you're going to get for this, you're going to get our bonus episodes of Ghost Stories I Have Heard. You're going to get merch, which comes to you automatically through the magic of Patreon. You're going to get all those pictures we talk about and some extra information and things like that. So come on along, join the Patreon gang. It's just patreon.com/ghostsandbears, and you will find us there. We have a little video for you to watch telling us what we're all about, and then you can just sign up for Patreon right there. So we'd love to have you join us, and we really do rely on your support and are grateful for your support.
Thank you.
Also, we have other things in the works. We're going to be doing some more local topics. I know the next one is going to be all in James Bay, and it's going to be awesome. And
James Bay is fun.
I'm pretty sure Chris and Alex are going to be doing a video for that one.
Yeah,
so.
We're going to be meeting with them actually this week to do another video.
Yeah, so that'll be great. And
I know Alex wants to use one of my lenses.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
So we just want to say thank you specifically to our lovely patrons, and they include Charlotte,
Julie,
Ruth,
Rebecca,
Mary Frances,
Cassie,
Gina and Victoria,
Sandy,
Christopher,
David,
Ashley,
Jeremiah,
Mamere,
Elizabeth,
Sam,
BB Nix,
Melinda,
Jordan,
Tammy,
James,
Taya,
Evan,
Arwin,
Steve,
Kyle,
Catherine,
Mari,
Myri, and that's Christy next.
and Christy.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. We are so grateful and really excited that so many people have joined us in this community effort to build up a place where we can talk about ghosts or bears or anything else you want to talk about. We're a safe place to be. We also have our Discord server for all of our Patreon members. So, check that out and be sure to use that. Our good friend Brianna is running that for us. So
thank you,
we're
Brianna.
very grateful for that.
And we're looking forward to finally traveling again.
Yes.
Finally. And actually getting back out there and meeting and touching base with people like we did in the north.
Yeah.
And actually being able to record again and
in a room,
get more,
all in one.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Get more of the fun and community involvement.
Definitely. We're really excited about that. All right, friends, thank you for hanging out with us and being here to hear Jason's story of the ghost in my house, Prince George. And hopefully you feel like you've learned something about us. Maybe you've learned something about the elusive shadow people who I am still a little bit baffled by.
I don't know anything about them. All I know is that thing was awful.
It was awful.
And I am talking about in past tense. I don't have a clue if it's still around. I mean... who knows?
Yeah.
All I do know is the turnover in that poor downstairs suite was insane.
Yeah.
And then for the last while, it was completely empty. But good news, I saw in the listing, it looks like it might be rented again. So you never know.
Gosh. Good luck.
I did see a Christmas
Good luck to them.
Santa thing on the downstairs kitchen.
Well,
I'm like, okay, well, that must indicate it's being occupied for now.
Good luck to them.
Yeah, good luck.
All right. Thank you, everybody. And remember, no matter where you are or what you're doing, you're thinking about, what's a really great podcast that will give me the actual ghost story?
With the actual history.
In the actual place. And I can tell you, it's going to be ours, Ghosts and Bears. And hopefully, one day that place is going to be
with you.
Thanks, guys. Take
care.
Bye.
Bye.